Okay, today what we're going to be looking at is my Gherkin, and just kind of like some build notes on my Gherkin. So there's two versions of the Gherkin out there. One is this PCB mount Gherkin, which is very tight. There's only like the PCB and the bottom plate, and then there's a version that's slightly larger. That it has the plate mount, and it has these standoffs and screws that are on the outside as opposed to be in line with the switches. And this is like an older version of my Gherkin. Really, you can see I've got this like thing hanging out, which is kind of useful, but I'm gonna be like updating it to my new BlueMicro, so I won't need this anymore. Like this new BlueMicro is essentially version 2.1, which I'll be pointing out to a few differences with the old version. So just to help on the build notes, I'm going to be opening this up, and I've got to find which screws are which. So this one doesn't fit there, so let me just find one that does. Let me see. That doesn't fit, too small. That fits perfectly, so let me use that one. And I'm gonna unscrew a unreasonable amount of screws. So I've got how many of those in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 14 different screws. So I'm gonna take a couple of minutes here. 1, 2, 3, oops, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and I think even the one with the outside has got even more screws. Okay, I got a couple more that need a little bit more. Got this one, maybe this one, there it is, and I got one or two in here that need a little bit more. There it is. Okay, so now we got access to a few more things. And actually what I've done here, and which is gonna hide a few things, but I will note a few things down. So this version of the Gherkin, which was a more recent one, a more recent version, actually has the reset pin right here, which is actually very useful. Now the Gherkin on its own has a key design flaw where the raw pin and the VCC pin on the PCB are connected together. So that means that if we want to use a BlueMicro runs at 3.3 volts. However, when you connect your like for example a Pro Micro, like I've got one somewhere here. Where is it? I've got several. So a Pro Micro like this here. A Pro Micro like this. Essentially, when you connect, oops, there it goes. So in a Pro Micro, when you connect your USB, what happens is you've got a regulator that's gonna like regulate to 5 volt here, but you're also getting 5 volts coming in. So that regulator is not doing much. The regulator is useful when you actually use a larger voltage coming in through the raw, and it gets to 5 volt. So what the designer of the Gherkin did is he connected the raw pin to the VCC pin on the PCB. Now, for the BlueMicro, it's not a problem because it all runs at 5 volts, like the voltage you get from a USB. However, when you go to other controllers, the problem that happens is you need to connect a battery somewhere. So to be able to connect a battery, and lithium-ion batteries are up to 4.2 volts. Now, the NRF52 chips that are on the BlueMicro, they run at 3.3 volts. So if I just kind of have a look here and just kind of flip it around, there's a little voltage regulator right here. Now what happens is we get 5 volt coming in, and then there is a MOSFET that essentially switches between the battery and the 5 volts to power that regulator. That regulator powers the big module like the CPU in here, or the controller in here. But to charge the battery, what we need is from that 5 volt, it's going to go through the battery charger, and the battery charger essentially is going to feed the battery to get the lithium-ion battery charged up to 4.2 volts. So this comes in at 5 volts. The battery can go all the way up to it's like 3.6, 3.7, but technically whenever you charge it, it goes all the way to 4.2. So it needs to go all the way up to 4.2. So 5, 4.2, but this module only takes, the maximum input is 3.6. So that regulator that we have at 3.3 is good. So 3.3 volt is what we feed this. But that 3.3 volt is what's available on the VCC pin here. But actually right here. But VCC under Gherkin, if you remember, is shorted to the raw. So if you look very carefully, and what I have done now, this is a version of my BlueMicro that actually technically is connected between the VCC and between the lithium-ion charger and the raw. However, you can see very clearly I kind of like burnt out that connection between the raw and the battery. So my connection between raw and battery is not made because see the copper here is actually disconnected. However, on a standard LiPo charger designed for the Ergo Travel, so that's because the Ergo Travel uses the raw pin. However, if you look at this one here, and let me just kind of zoom in a little bit on this one. You see right at the bottom, right here. This is my new BlueMicro 2.1. This little jumper here, if we want to connect the raw pin to charge, we make a solder bridge right here. Now, for the Gherkin, we must leave this open. So we don't put anything in, we connect the battery, the positive, the battery right here, the red wire, and then the black wire can be right here, which is the ground. So this is ground, this is positive of the battery. So you can see right on the back side, I've got battery here, and then ground. And then this raw here, you can see there's like a wire coming out this way, but there's no wire coming right here. Because it's on this side, there's a little jumper that we just leave open. So for the Gherkin, we just assemble this as it is, we connect the battery there. Now, if you look carefully on my Gherkin, and it's kind of like hiding through all of this underneath, and let me zoom out so that it can have a chance to focus. So if I look and just ignore this here. So what I have done, if you can see here, there's a little board that I have suspended with some just like double sticky tape here. this little board is about a few centimeters wide, a few centimeters deep, and if I can just kind of show you right here, come on, focus, do you think? There you go. So if you can see, and let me just pull it a little bit more. This little board is not very large, so I've got essentially two black wires and two red wires. Well, I've got one set of black wires going to the battery, one set of black and red going to the battery, and the other set essentially goes to my, come on. Let me just do the focus. There it is. So, and then the other set goes to my battery connection on the BlueMicro. So when we go, it's going to be on, so it's going to look like this. So face down, because my raw is going to be at the top here. And then I would just bring the black wire to the ground here and the red wire here. And then I would assemble my pins just like this here. Now if you look carefully, I've got a standoff, or not a standoff, but a sockets. Now these sockets, I can install them just like a regular gherkin. And then I use like painter's tape, like that, that kind of tape here. Put it on top, put wires through, and then put my BlueMicro or even my ProMicro, and then it would look very similar to this. And these are essentially diode legs. I can like put the diode legs through, solder it all in, pull it all out, and then when I pull it all out, I can easily then, using tweezers like this, I can squeeze the tweezers in between the pins. As you can see here, as I push down, it actually makes the whole thing kind of like pull out. So that's, and this is like, because it's like very pointy, it's actually very useful. So you don't, you almost have a force that is in line with the pins. So that's, let me push that back down. So that's it. So to pull it out, it's pretty easy with tweezers to kind of like push it up and then down. You remove your tape once you've got all your pins soldered. You push it back in. You solder your battery in place. Now you can see here what I have done. This wire is connected with this. This is my serial adapter, but if you look carefully, I've got the serial chip right here. Well, that chip is right here. So, and any of the new builds that I send out this BlueMicro version 2.1. Well, there's going to be a B coming up, which essentially is going to be very, very similar. Now, this version essentially it has everything on board that it needs to program using the Adafruit and RF52 library and bootloaders. As the this is an NRF52832. So whenever this is installed, you plug it in, it automatically does a reset and actually flashes it. And then, so this, essentially this here, this connection there, you won't even need it. So these jumpers, you won't need it. In your kit, depending if you got one or not, you may have something that looks like this. This is in case this gets bricked or you need to flash a different bootloader. And these get connected. So the SWK, IO, they actually get connected to these pin, and then you need to have the VCC and ground also connected. So you may have a few wires that will go from here to these pin. Well, this is essentially if you have the SWD kit. But nowadays with the new bootloader from Adafruit, you can actually flash the bootloader through serial, and you can flash the firmware through serial. So with all this on board here, we're good. So just put some questions down if you've got any questions in the comment sections if you've got any questions. So this applies to both versions of a Gherkin. So what I have done to essentially hide the battery is I just like put some foam in here to kind of squeeze it and make it a little bit cleaner. Maybe over the next few days what I'll do is I'll update this with my new BlueMicro, so it can actually like get this out of there and not have to do the reset dance. So whenever you actually have something that's not on board, you have like to press the reset pin, and it's a little bit more awkward to kind of like do than just like use the onboard serial. And the onboard serial, it automatically resets the chip before it actually flashes. Whereas with this external serial, you manually have to do the reset, and getting the timing is a little bit tricky because you got a window of a couple of seconds between the reset and when it can actually flash. And after that couple of seconds, it's gonna get into the firmware, and then you're again stuck into, okay, now you can't, like the firmware doesn't answer on flashing. So that reset dance that I've been talking about is no longer needed with this. So keep in mind, we need for your Gherkin, you do not connect any jumper here. You connect your battery directly here to the BlueMicro. To flash, I recommend like just flashing off the board just to make sure. Remember, the raw pin is on this side right here, typically with this facing down, and that's about it. For the power connection, the wires, essentially you can see here I've got a little switch right there. I've used double sticky tape to essentially put the battery down. What I usually do is I take some very thin foam just to clear off from the pins of the battery, and I use double sticky tape. I have the kind of tape used for putting down carpets, so it's not even tape, it's really more like a glue that has some fibers in. Let me see if I can maybe kind of show it to you here, and you can see maybe a little bit on the corners. Yeah, it's kind of really stuck because so what I've done, you can see right here, it's like really just like some fibers with some really gluey, like very sticky tape, like gummy tape or gummy glue. And that is very sticky. It's meant to put like really like place carpets down so that they don't move. So and on the edge of carpets. So what I use this tape. It's just apply it, cut to the size of a battery, for example, and the battery, like this one, is like it's not going anywhere. It's like it's really solid there. And then if I have like larger batteries, I just have like a larger piece of tape. Smaller batteries. Now this is a battery for a radio controlled like helicopters or cars or anything like that, or like those quadcopters. It's a little bit thicker, so that's why it's going to be thicker than the battery you may have received from me. So what I do is I use this for from boards. I've used it for the Gherkin. It's going to just stay in there. It's, I don't know, 200 or 300 milliamp hours, and it lasts like quite a while. So if I just turn it on, and is it gonna turn on? Yeah, the battery's not is dead on this one, so I gotta charge it up. So let me just plug it in. So here in this case, one of the other elements that I've done on this board is I've installed the LEDs. So to install the LEDs, what you need to do, you'll have a little kit where you've got somewhere in the middle you've got a MOSFET to install and a couple of diodes. So you'll install those, and then you also need to install one resistor per LED. So and then you install obviously the LEDs last. So if I plug this in, you can see the LED light up right there. and then I've got it to brighten up as it dims up. Yeah, so you can actually see it flash. Like to the eye, you don't see it, but you might actually see it on the screen. It's just the PWM with the scanning of the camera. But it's actually like it dims. So as you type, it stays bright, and then save on battery, it just dims out. So it's on, so it's going to be charging right now. So I'll just leave it to charge as I put it back together. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to just put like comments down, and I'll answer that over there. And then yeah, hopefully that helps. I'll post this pretty much unedited as it is. So these are some of my build notes for the Gherkin. What different it is to do for the Gherkin with the BlueMicro. So I'll put this in and then put it back together. So I guess I'll see you next time. Thanks.